Cool. So, how's it going?
Doing good. Yeah, sorry. I had a little not really an emergency. I was supposed to bring my daughter's food to school today for lunch and I just totally forgot. I'm like, "Oh my God, I have to go drop this off before I start this call."
Hey, good
So,
good call. Remembering that it happens.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. All right. So I know this might be a little shorter today, but that's okay. I
yeah,
mean, we can always have it again another time or extend or
of course.
just go from there, whatever we want to do.
Sure. So I know last time we talked about like political violence and like all the rhetoric and stuff, and then we briefly touched on it like COVID and stuff. We can talk about
Mhm.
that today. I was curious just to kind of keep it current what you thought about. Did you hear about that text chat that got leaked? The young Republicans and all that kind of stuff. Um, It was kind of a recent story in Politico. Not a terribly deep story, but a bunch of people who were in the Young Republican organization. Some of their texts got leaked. There are some pretty questionable things in there. I just want to know kind of what you thought about that. The thing I'm seeing from the right is they're saying it's locker room talk. The left is mad about it. There's some questionable things that were said. So I just want to kind of see what you thought about that.
I did not hear about this. Is this week
Yeah,
or
yeah.
okay. Let me
Yeah, take a second. It's like I
man.
said, it's not a terribly deep story. It's just like it's a thing that happened. These people, their chat got leaked. They were going a little crazy of what they were saying in there. Yeah,
Young Republican.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Republicans face backlash after racist chat leaked. Young Republicans group, including the N-word, homophobic term, anti-Semitic comments and chats. What was? Um, who are these people? Who is this group?
Young Republicans, they're one of those like political movement groups. Are almost like it's almost like what we were like when we were in college when we had like young Republicans, young Democrats, but they're not just college kids. It's people with like political positions. Let's see what they are actually. Young Republican. I don't know if it's a super PAC, but Young Republican. Let me see. Yeah, they are Young Republican National Federation. It looks like they are they have donations available here, just like a political group. Here we are, who we are. Yeah, they're a political youth organization. So, um, pretty big footprint. They have people that work in, actual elected positions and everything. So they're not just like one of those like fringe groups. They're pretty big.
Okay. So what I'm seeing so far from these chats, some of it seems bad. Like obviously people have
Yeah,
what they call locker room talk, which just doesn't make it okay. Because
true.
I mean, even we all have group chats where it's like people think they can like, oh, because I'm with my friends, say things I don't really mean, but just cause like an outrage.
Yeah,
But there is a point where it's like kind of funny, but another point where it's like, ew, that's just, kind of showing your who you may be really, who you maybe really are
right.
when you say certain comments. Um, Obviously looking at these, it's a mix of that, things where
Yeah,
it's like, oof, where
it's
it's
like
like,
some
yeah,
bad
these some
stuff.
of these
Yeah,
people are kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit too far beyond just trying to have humor.
yeah.
Um, but some of it can be taken the wrong way. But it just seems like a bunch of guys. Um, yeah, I would say what I'm seeing here, it's not okay. So what do these guys do? Is it just a couple guys in this chat, or is it like a big group chat?
So
Or
what I'm seeing here is a lot of a lot of the people on the right are saying, well, not all of them, but some prominent voices. So even the vice president kind of chimed in, said that it wasn't as bad as like an example on the left, and he included a text message from an attorney general candidate in Virginia that mentioned something about he wanting the children of his political opponents to die. You know
yeah,
both are wrong. Now this
yeah,
group specifically is a group of they're 18 to 40. They're a political movement group. They train, they recruit, they have influence on like look, they're a group that wants to more people to believe in what they believe in, to vote how they vote, to canvass, to have discussions. It's the same thing that people on the left do. It's the same thing that any political group does here. But a lot of the argument that I've seen on the right is they're just college kids. It's just locker room talk. On their website, it says 18 to 40. That's their group, so it's not all just college kids. And that's my only thing is the backlash I've seen is it's wrong, it's gross. There's some really bad things that were said. There's a
Hmm.
certain line where it's not just locker room talk, but then there's also like they're not just kids. They're real people with real jobs and real influence, and it's a big organization that its primary goal is to recruit and you know talk about their message, which is not illegal. It's free speech, but I'm just saying there's a line.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I being an individualist for me,
Yeah,
I hate to say, oh, private messages in this group chat represent the whole movement. It's kind
right.
of like, well,
They don't.
it doesn't, but doesn't mean the messages are okay.
Right.
But at the same, I can see, I almost see all the sides here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, oh, I also, from our last call, I'm not someone to be like, oh, well, just because it happens worse than this side means it happens on this side. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's wrong either way.
Right.
But there is a side where some of these messages and this framing where it's like, he did say, my delegates I bring will vote for the most right-wing person. And the comment was, great, I love Hitler. It's like, okay, well, okay,
Right.
when you see that,
Yeah.
what that person means is like they're making fun of the fact that they just call Trump Hitler and they just, oh, they like Trump or someone like Trump, not
Right.
saying I love Adolf Hitler.
Okay.
It's a spin-off of what the left is calling Hitler. They love that.
Okay.
It's like making fun of
I can give
it.
you. I'll give you that. It
But
could
I'm
be
not saying,
satire.
but
Yeah.
that's just one of these messages that I'm seeing on this
Okay.
one screen snippet in this political article.
Yeah, and
That's
we can
not
say that. We can say like one of them. I'm
right.
willing to say that. Like maybe somebody was joking and saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
let's just like it's satirical."
Yes.
Oh,
Now, it's not to say there aren't other messages
yeah,
that are bad that are being saying. Like this one, can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the Hitler aesthetic.
yeah,
I'm ready to watch people burn now. We got to pretend that we like them. Hey, come on in, take a shower and relax. Boom, they're dead.
yeah,
Now, again, those are comments where it's like, that's kind of hard to justify. You're just being satirical and just to be funny.
yeah,
That kind of means you really feel something kind of hateful and just that's not, those are where I would say that those aren't okay. Those are the comments
yeah,
that Politico should be focusing on, which they do in
yeah.
this snippet. And don't, I guess, okay, the problem I see with political articles and opinion pieces
Hmm.
is they often take articles that can be seen as like there's two sides to it, but
Hmm.
they want to make you just see the one side of it. They don't focus on the things that are where it's like objectively one side, like it's objectively wrong. They focus too much on where it's contentious.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, the first one I told you about the Hitler comment, if you're on the right, you can kind of go, well, obviously we're making fun of the people who are calling Trump Hitler. Now we're not saying literally Hitler. But then the other comment I said about the gas chambers, well, nobody on the right ever talked about making fun of the gas chambers. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
right.
you can say they're making fun of the fact, but like you look at the context of the conversation here, and it's like it's not as funny, it's not as satirical as the previous ones. So that's a good example of where they focus on like, hey, this is what's being said here as objectively wrong.
Right. I mean, so yeah, I see. I mean, Politico could say, while some of these things could be considered as satire and comments of certain, left-leaning people having a
Mhm.
certain perception of a politician. Others are too far, are clearly not satire, or if anything else, are grounded in a little more than just. It seems like it's just a little more than just a joke. It seems like
Yeah.
it's a real, very specific, thought out. Like this person has some anger, some moral rot happening.
Yeah.
That's further than just satire.
Yeah. And to JD Vance's point, I mean, I guarantee you it happens on both sides.
Yeah,
We know we all have group chats. Everyone has group chats where people might have people in the groups or like you say things just to like not even be funny, but to be what's the word? Facetious sometimes too, where it's like you're not even really addressing the argument. You're kind of just like saying your feelings
yeah,
and trying to like get this gotcha where you're not really like thinking about it all the way through. but you're not like serious about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there needs to be a distinction there. I mean,
Uh-huh.
yeah, sometimes these like opinion articles can be gotcha pieces, but when you do have the vice president not condemning it and saying, well, this candidate in Virginia said something objectively worse. What I'd rather see from a vice president who's he's got the second most respected office in the world. What I'd
Right.
rather see is, hey, both this is both these are both bad. There's a line between satire, and then there's the other side of it where it's just straight out hateful and not appropriate and something we should not encourage in our rhetoric. What I'd rather see from that side is, hey, it's okay to condemn people in our own camp. We're not turning our backs on them. We're making it clear that we have political goals, we have agendas here, but we don't encourage this type of behavior. Like at the end of the day, we're all Americans. I know it sounds cliche.
No, it's right though. I think you're
Yeah,
spot on where it's like you can just say like, hey, this isn't what we support from our administration. Like we feel a certain like this type of messaging isn't how we support it.
yeah, I agree.
I don't know why it's so hard for either side whenever they're in power
Yeah,
to say that. They're
I
like
mean,
afraid to
yeah.
rupture their base if they like, you know, say a bad thing about a bad thing someone did.
Mhm. We talked about this last week. We talked about how the pendulum kind of swung the opposite direction. Like how when we were in college, it was a lot of like the far left stuff and the outrage and the how could you not include this group? You're not being social justicey enough for my taste. But now the pendulum swung the opposite direction where it's like
Hmm.
now they're doing it too. They're not condemning certain things. It's outrage. It's we're gonna say whatever we want because we were canceled, for
Yeah.
by you guys. Now it's our turn. I don't think it works either way. I think it just creates more problems and it makes our system look like a complete mess compared to other political systems.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, and I just listened to the first time. You ever heard of the guy Nick Fuentes?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I didn't really, I've heard of the name, but I didn't really know who he was. I listened to a podcast with him and I want to just know, like, I want to know from him what he has to say.
Yes.
I don't care what somebody else has to say about him because they're probably somewhat right, but I want to know from him what
Mhm.
he says, what he has to say. I was listening to him, and I was like, yeah, I can see why people don't like him
Yeah.
because he might go too far in specific things. But on the contrary, you can see his point in like half the sense. Like you can half the thing you can see why he's popular in not a hateful way, but because he's really good at what he does for being in his mid 20s. I
Mhm.
mean, he's one of the best podcasters at what he does in terms of being able to speak and know facts and like say this and that and approach conversations from being someone in their mid 20s to attract the young Z group.
Mhm.
But what he says might not be good. He might not be able to debate very well with people who have a strong opinion otherwise. I don't know.
So
Like
here, I
he's
think I
more
know what
like
you're
he's
saying.
kind of like a troll guy,
Yeah.
it seems like
He's.
more so than
I'm going to use this example, and I'll sound a little wild for saying it, but
yeah,
okay. Not saying that he's Hitler, okay, but when
right.
Hitler was rising to power in the 20s and early 30s, before like they really officially took charge and invaded Poland,
Hmm.
Hitler was very very good at talking to a large crowd and getting them riled up. He was charismatic, he was loud, he was pointed, he was exciting. As an
Right.
orator, he was really really good at talking to people and getting them excited and invested. And what I can
Hmm.
say to what you said, to your point, a guy like Fuentes is, for his being in his 20s, is really really good at riling a group, at getting them interested in, like, locked
Yes.
in. Right?
Yes.
He knows how to like say something, and then if the crowd's loud, he's like, okay, I'm gonna latch onto that. It's not really so much the content of what he's saying; it's just the general electricity that he brings. That can be
Yes.
very very like, to a young 20 something or a teenager, maybe it could be very intoxicating to be like, ooh, this is loud, it's electrifying, it's hitting all my emotional strings. I'm gonna listen to this guy.
Right. But I think it's also important when we have people like that.
Yeah,
That's also important. It's also too like when we studied Hitler in like high school or whenever we studied Hitler, whenever that
sure.
was, like the reason why he rose to power was for a reason. There was a void that had to be
Yes,
filled by someone.
there was.
So to understand like why, okay, not to say he's right in what he says,
Not at all.
but I think it's also important to understand like Well, not at all. He's right in some senses where there are emotions that are being suppressed
Hmm.
that he's triggering, but maybe his messaging is wrong. But
Right.
he's hitting the points that people feel that are just like being neglected. So, because right now he was supposedly, I don't,
Yeah.
I saw it today. I don't know if it's true. So let's just say I saw it somewhere that he was banned from Spotify. His podcast was taken out from Spotify.
Hmm.
I believe. So, I mean, that is an example of censorship that I don't think works. That
I agree.
actually validates people, but like, hey, why was oh, guys, now we have to do this underground black market way of looking
Yeah.
at him because people are what they're banning him because they're afraid.
So to your point, like when there's like a vacuum, when there's a void to be filled, like Hitler didn't just, he wasn't just popular because he was a good speaker. He was popular
You're right.
because,
He wasn't like paying people off to
right.
listen to him.
Post World War I Germany, the economy was in the trash. The
Hmm.
culture was kind of destroyed. People were upset. People didn't have jobs. There was a lot of poverty there. Their country kind of fell apart after World War One. So there was a
Right.
void. There was a vacuum to be filled, and he filled it. I think you're right when you censor a guy like Fuentes. You give credence to, hey, I'm right, they're censoring me, they're trying to get rid of me, they're trying to get rid of people like you, they don't want people to have strong opinions and question the status quo. So you give people like him more of a platform, more of an audience when you suppress them. When in my opinion, don't censor them, let them,
Right.
give them give them the platform.
And when you don't platform him,
Yeah.
he is the platform and he gets more popular because it validates when he says they are afraid to interview me because they don't have a point to argue against what I'm saying.
Hmm.
I don't know if he said that, but it kind of makes that, hey, all his followers might agree because no one's having him on podcast because
Yeah,
they must just be afraid to hear what he has to say.
I agree. I will say though, the Spotify point, I think they just agreed to release his podcast, like to put it on there. I
Okay.
I saw that recently, so he actually is getting. He might have been banned before, but I did see
Okay.
recently that they are putting him back on there.
Was
Um,
it the opposite then?
what?
I said he was taken off.
Well,
You're
he
saying
might have.
he was,
He
now
might
he's
have
back?
before. Yeah, it's entirely possible he was, because I know he's been banned from certain things. I think he was banned from Twitter for a while, and then Musk took over, and that whole thing happened, and he got reinstated on Twitter.
Okay.
I do have a list of some of his quotes, and I kind of want to just kind of say them for you.
Yeah.
Despite some of these quotes, I don't think he should be deplatformed. We should make it available. Free speech means everyone has a shot to say something publicly and not get suppressed for it. And when you suppress people, the automatic reaction is, wait a minute, why were they suppressed? Are they telling the truth? Are they exposing people? Why are people trying to hide that? But he did, so I'll take a couple of quotes here.
Sure.
This is from, okay. He said he expressed desire to marry a 16-year-old girl at some point in the future, claiming adolescence is the sweet spot. He said, quote, right when the milk is good. So, like, that's like, I'm cherry picking. I have a list of quotes here. I admit it. But it's a bit, I mean,
Yeah.
we shouldn't
It's
suppress people like him, but we should, like, at least say, like, this guy's a bit kooky. There's some things that don't really
yeah.
make sense.
Yeah. I mean, considering he is like a troll guy, like
Yeah.
if Tony Hinchcliffe said that, you would know he was joking because he's a comedian. But if
Now,
Nick,
he did say, though, you mentioned Tony, he did say
yeah.
at Trump's rally that Puerto Rico was an island of floating garbage.
Okay.
I mean,
I know actually about this from
okay,
what
talk
Joe
to me. Yeah.
Rogan had said and Tony's
Yeah.
said. So apparently, he does that joke all the time to Puerto Ricans at clubs. And
Okay.
apparently Puerto Ricans are this is according to what they say. Puerto Ricans are some of the most like comedic like people that they just have the most fun with the jokes. They
Okay.
take the jokes, they give the jokes, they're all in on jokes. So he says that at clubs all the time and it kills
Okay.
because Puerto Ricans understand that that's in a sense true because there's a big garbage problem in Puerto Rico where there's nowhere to put the garbage. So they put it on the island.
Okay.
Um, so he's also obsessed with like the environment and how there's this big floating island of garbage in the Pacific.
Okay.
I forget what it's called or where it is, but there's this big garbage island in the Pacific somewhere. It's in some the currents it like sticks in this big circle island in
Hmm.
there. So I remember Joe Rogan saying on his podcast, like, Tony, you can't tell that joke. But he's like, but Joe, it kills. It's just, well, it kills. He's like, Tony, you're gonna get in trouble for telling this joke. So then he did it at the Trump rally, and then everyone obviously took it like the way it did. But then he also said a bunch of other jokes at the rally that people like didn't call out, which
Yeah,
were probably just as, I don't know, insulting, you could argue, than the other ones. Just like how the other ones he was saying like um Palestinians and the Israelis were how they should solve the war is like,
yeah,
we all know that the Palestinians are going to throw the rocks. But the Israelis, that they just can't throw the paper, they just won't do it.
yeah.
Joking about that.
Uh,
And then those
yeah,
jokes, they weren't because it doesn't involve the elect. It doesn't target anyone that's voting. So my problem was like, you know, it's very picky, choosy. When they call him a speaker who was making a statement and not say he
yeah,
was a comedian, it makes you just realize like these people are being totally disingenuous. He was there. He's everyone knows Tony as a comedian. He's a what do they call it? He's a roast comic. Everything he's doing is
mm,
for a roast. It was obviously a joke. It wasn't serious. He wasn't making a statement. He wasn't calling Puerto Rico an island of garbage. He was making a joke that the Puerto Ricans apparently they love that joke at the comedy clubs that he does comedy
yeah.
for. So I don't know if anybody even really cared about it that much that knew who he was. I don't know.
I think people. I think I'll give you that. I think people on the left cared about it probably too much. I also don't know if at a campaign rally it really matters to have a comedian there. I think you should really just focus on policy, and I mean you want to make it interesting. You want to make it excitable for people to watch, so you can get viewers and everything. But I mean, I look. Did it matter to me? Not really. He's a comedian.
Yeah.
That's what I don't want to suppress comedians' free speech. I think comedy should be pretty much unfettered, and you say what you want. That's the point of comedy. It's meant to make people uncomfortable. Do I think it really belonged at a campaign rally? Not really. Do I think there should be on both sides an emphasis on making campaign rallies a little more interesting? Sure, I think that's fair. But the only reason why I bring the whole Puerto Rico garbage comment up is recently they asked the NFL picked Bad Bunny to be their halftime performer,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And look, I'm not a Bad Bunny. I don't listen to music. It's
Yeah.
not important to me. But you know, there were calls like saying that it's not American. He's not American. Certain people on the right said that he is literally not an American citizen, which is not
Hmm.
true.
Right.
When you have that joke, which is fair, it's a joke, but then you have such a massive amount of backlash from the right about a Puerto Rican, very very big artist, big here, big across the world, performing at the halftime show. I do question a little bit, like where is the animosity coming from? Why do they care so much? The Super Bowl halftime show for at least 20, 30 years has been a mixture of white artists. They had Tom Petty there one time. They had Justin Timberlake. Then they had like Janet Jackson. It's been a mixture of all different types of art. The halftime show has
Right.
always been a performance gig, big moneymaker, a draw, aside from
Right.
just the game. So my question is, I agree with you, total joke, fair
Right.
enough. Personally, I don't know if belongs at a campaign rally, but when the Bad Bunny thing happens, is there some animosity? Is there some, you know, we should only have American artists here? I start to question
Yeah.
where some of that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, well, there have been a lot of non-American artists to the halftime show,
Yeah,
and Bad Bunny, for one, is an American artist.
you're right.
I,
Yeah,
I I didn't really see a lot of, I mean, maybe I just didn't see it on my feed, but the comments I didn't really see. I heard people say this, but I didn't see the people that said it say it about
yeah,
how people were saying that he wasn't an American. I didn't see any comments saying he wasn't an American. I just saw people commenting that people had said he wasn't an American. So I thought the issue was more of like he only had songs in Spanish, and people only 14% of the population in the U.S. know Spanish.
yeah.
I mean, I can see that being a problem. I mean, I get that the super, and they admitted that they did not do this for the current audience. They did it for the new audience
True. I
because
think
it is
I
a worldwide
Yeah,
thing.
I think there's a huge subsection of the NFL. I mean, look, any audience, any sport like audience is a mixture. It's not just one group. It's not just one thing. And I think the past few shows were probably for the younger ones, like Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Like I lived in Kansas City, for almost 5 years. I've seen Arrowhead Stadium. A lot of my soldiers
Hmm.
are Chiefs fans, and they're not people listening to Bad Bunny. They're not listening to Kendrick Lamar. They're white people from the country. That
Yeah.
are country music lovers. not that it's bad, but like the demographic isn't just this one thing. You know, it's a I can see why certain people are like, well, it doesn't really pertain to me. But I think honestly that's where the conversation stops. It's like not for
Yeah.
me, not my favorite thing. I just want to engage. But some of the reaction, like there was a quote from a Fox News host. She's got a
Hmm.
big audience, Tommy Lauren. She said
Yeah.
that on her podcast that Bad Bunny is not an American artist. Now, what she could have meant was that he's not geared towards a lot of the NFL fans, a lot of American fans that don't speak a different language, which is fair. But
Hmm.
to just outright say he's not an American artist, I mean, I disagree. I mean, he's got a pretty big foothold here now,
Right.
so
I mean, where was your argument when Rihanna performed? She's not an American artist. Well, she is she's from Barbados, I believe. There's so many different artists who are huge in the U.S. I mean, Big Bunny, I know is, I don't know if most of his audience is U.S. or
yeah,
it's global, like South
I
America,
think it's more
or
global.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know. But I don't think, and I agree, most people are not going to know any of the songs, but I don't think that knowing the songs means that it's not going to be a good halftime show. Because
right.
like if the lady who like spins the plates and is on the bike plays like, Asian music, you don't know any of the songs,
It's
but
still
you're
entertaining.
watching her dance perform. Like
Yeah,
no one's going to complaining about that. And in the 90s, I saw some quote saying, "Well, when you heard the song, when you did the Macarena in the 90s, no one
yeah.
complained you didn't know the words.
No one knew that.
You just did you
Yeah,
just did the moves. Nobody complained. So it doesn't
yeah,
necessarily mean it's going to be a bad show because you don't know the songs. Um, so I mean, that's my take. I don't think his comments, I think it was SNL, where
yeah.
he said, "Yeah, you have 4 months to learn Spanish." For one, I don't think he thought of that. I think SNL
Wrote that
told
for
him
him.
to say that.
Yeah,
So I
100%.
think he's just trying to do the best he can. And I think that Bad Bunny is doing all he can. Like, what else do you want him to do? Like,
Yeah,
he's a great talent. He's been making guest appearances on like Happy Gilmore 2, and you see him at
true.
WrestleMania a few
Yeah,
years ago. And I mean, he's doing everything he can possibly do to be an artist that he wants to be. I mean, it's nothing against him, but
I think some
I
of the
think what he should have
backlash.
said, sorry,
Yeah,
one more thing. I
yeah,
think what he should have said was, my songs are available on Spotify. You have 4 months to, check them out, see if you like them, and hopefully you can know a couple when I perform at the halftime show.
yeah. I think that'd have been great. I think you're right.
That'd have been more of a uniting comment to
They
make. And he
wrote that
still can
for
do
him.
it. He still has time.
Yeah, he could say that. They wrote that for him. I think you're right. They
I
definitely
100%.
wrote that to make it
Definitely.
seem like, I mean, to make it punch a little more because that's kind of what they do.
I know. I
Um,
know.
and I'm with you. I don't think he's bad for he's doing the thing that every person that gets to a big level of stardom does. They do movie appearances, they go to WrestleMania. He's making the rounds. I don't
Right.
think that's bad at all.
No.
Um, and I think some of the outrage from the right might be a little jealousy, might be a little like, or an attempt to farm some engagement when they say he's un-American, but then they use the SNL clip to see, look what he's doing. He says we have to speak Spanish. He didn't write that. It's just it's engagement. It's a little
It's
outrage
yeah,
farming.
I would say it's, well, I mean, I guess an SNL, you do agree to say it. I'm sure he agreed to say it.
Yeah,
It's not like he pushed back and they're like, no, no, this is what you have to say. I'm sure
yeah,
he just went along with it. But I mean, I'm gonna give him a break on that. I do think a lot of the pushback comes from, because like I said, there's been a lot of performers who are not American perform, and I don't think that's the real issue. I think the issue is that all the songs are in Spanish, and most people do not know Spanish.
I agree, and I think that's
I
fair.
think I think their comments might be all over the place as far as what they mean by it,
Yeah,
but I have a hard time believing they had a problem with Rihanna performing, or who. I mean, I saw the list a while back.
yeah,
About all the performers that were not American, and no one had an issue with it because they knew the songs.
yeah. I think some of that is like, hey, I don't understand the language, and instead of just say that, it's like a lot of just outrage or clickbaity stuff to
I
say.
know.
I
I
think,
agree.
and I think it's fair. Like, I don't know all like the language. Like, I that's fair. I mean, it doesn't mean it's like a bad thing. It just means it is. We just don't know. You don't have to know everything. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and if TP USA wants to have a rival halftime show with someone
yeah,
else, I mean,
great
I say
power to
go
them.
for it. Do it
It's
because it
it's
happened before in
yeah,
'92. In Living Color had their rival halftime show with the Wayans brothers doing a comedy show, an all
yeah,
black comedy show, because they were bored with the U.S. Olympic ice skating team or something performing at the halftime show. So it's
yeah,
like, I don't have a problem if you're gonna have a rival halftime show. I mean, do it. If people want to watch that instead, you know what it'll do? It'll have the Super Bowl halftime show. be something more appealing to the viewers.
Okay.
And if they're happy with who they have as a halftime show, well, then they're going to keep it that way. I mean, who cares? I
Yeah,
don't
I agree.
care.
It doesn't. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's worth getting mad about. I think, like we talked about last time, there's a huge market right now for farming outrage and engagement. So everything is hyper blown up, hyper focused on. It's an attack or it's a slight against somebody or some side or some belief.
Yeah.
It's like I think there are more important things to get outraged about or at least talk about than a halftime show. I mean, honestly, even I used to watch the game a lot. I'm a huge Patriots fan, so when they were playing, I was always watching. And every time the halftime show came on, okay, I turned it off. I don't care. I'd rather I watch the game. That matters more to me. This is one of those things that doesn't really have that much
Hang on,
appeal.
Scott. Her school is calling. Give me 1 second.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that he's not on the screen while he talks to his family. So let's just, oh, he is, let me just move this. I just want to make sure I'm being respectful of his privacy. Good conversation so far. We'll probably have to end it in less than 10 minutes because the little notification came up. We're going to have to start over or start the next call. Um, but yeah, good conversation. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. He tries. He's being charitable. Um, he's being really charitable. He's being understanding. We don't have to agree on everything, but he's making some good points. That's fair. I mean, even the Tony Hitchcliffe thing is not that big of a deal. I mean, it's annoying to have a.
Okay. Sorry. Everything's fine at school. They just called me about some lunch thing.
Oh, hold on. All right. Hey, welcome back. Everything good? Everything okay?
Yep.
Good. Good.
Everything's good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So I just got the notification that this call is about to end because of the 10-minute timer, like the free
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
So
Okay.
let me send you. Oh, so oh, there's a clock up here. It says 7.5. So let's run
Yeah.
this one out, and then I'll send you we can do another 20 minutes, and then I got to get going.
Sure.
All right. So we agree. The Super Bowl thing's stupid. All that. It's okay to have jokes. I just think
Again,
there's just
yeah.
a lot of outrage lately.
That's
So
that's an example of on like how I said the political article about
yeah,
not having the focused issues that are real. They're doing the contentious issues. On the right, it's a lot of the bad arguments of him not being American or whatever. It's like stick to the real issues of like people don't know the songs.
let
Like
me
why
ask
don't
you.
you just stick
Yeah,
with that?
let me ask you a
That's what
question.
everyone really is thinking. That's what really the issue really is. Only 14% of the population of the US knows Spanish. If you
Yeah,
focused on that being the issue, I mean, everyone would be in agreement in some sense.
yeah,
Maybe they would argue, would be like, hey, you know what? You don't have to know the songs. Just enjoy the music and enjoy the dancing, enjoy the
yeah.
show.
Right.
Then that would be it. But why make it this whole like, oh well, he's not an American, blah, 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 blah,
I
blah.
agree.
And then it's like so easy to just dunk on you because you're just wrong about that.
Right. It, right. It just makes it look like you can't have any fun and that you're a purist and that you just are unable just to relax and enjoy something that's
Right,
different. You know what I mean?
right.
I think we've forgotten as a people because of all this tribalism and outrage culture. We've forgotten how to just have fun and relax. Not everything requires an
I
opinion.
I I know. I know.
So I guess we can pivot before we hop on
Sure.
another call. But you mentioned we talked about a little bit about COVID last time.
Sure. Hmm.
You mentioned the lockdowns were kind of difficult. Like, what did you have to go through? Like, what were you doing at the time? Work wise, how did that affect you?
Well, I guess it really didn't. Okay. What my feelings towards COVID have little to do with how it affected me directly. It's more as a whole. So for me, COVID, we were in the office and then we just became remote and then our positions became permanently remote full time. And that was the extent of it. So I was just like at home all the time. I guess it took a while for our lives to get back to normal because everything was kind of still locked down and restricted as far as like going to events and whatever for a long time. And it was, I guess, tough for me personally to get back into a routine of like getting out of the house and like exercising and just kind of doing things that I normally did
Yeah,
with the going to the office everyday life. So I guess that's not, I don't really have a problem with that per se. I think it was more of the authoritarian government telling us that we had to do this and you had to get news from your governor every morning to see if you were allowed to see your dad as in the hospital or to have a funeral or to go to this or whatever, where it was like these businesses just had to stay closed because you weren't allowed to do this, so you weren't allowed to do that, or you were forced to wear your mask, so you had to have your vaccine passport to
Yeah.
enter a bar. You had to have your mask on to walk into the bar, but once you were in the bar, you could take it off.
You
Okay,
know,
what? A lot of things just made no sense and
yeah.
weren't thought through. And like schools having the kids do Zoom calls and not be social and then not, they didn't think through all the way of like, how does this affect the development of these kids?
Oh, yeah.
And you could just tell they just did not think about that all the way through. But they were just so set on this is the choice we're going to have to make because we need a one size fits all for everyone, regardless of age and gender and whatever. So it just
Yeah.
wasn't planned well. And I think that's where you lost trust in the government because it's like, you guys didn't plan this well, and we're supposed to trust you. This makes no sense.
I'm with you on that. I think it's definitely it was here. We have 3 minutes. So here's what I'm
Sure.
gonna do. I'm gonna send you a new link and
Okay.
I'll
And
continue.
then you'll respond to
Yep,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I just
All
want to make sure
right.
it's
Sounds
yeah.
good.
So I'll see you in a second, okay?
All right. See ya.
Bye. All right, so let me send another link to him. I'm not paying for Zoom, dude. If you think I'm doing that, that's not gonna happen. Let's just do this. Let me yeah, whatever. Yeah, if you think I'm paying for Zoom, you got another thing coming, dude. Here, let's do this. And then let's say participants, copy invite link. I'm gonna send it to Brian real quick. All right. Oh crap. Hey.
Okay. Yeah, I guess go ahead and record this before we forget.
Oh
Your
yeah.
yours.
Okay. Yeah. Let me record
Okay.
this. Okay. So, uh, lockdowns. Oh yeah, the response. So basically, I'm
Yep.
with you. I get it. Like I can see, we went from having a very like non-restrictive culture to all of a sudden every morning you're getting your news from your governor. You can't go to certain places. You have to have a card with stickers or a punch hole or your phone with your vaccine passport everywhere.
Hmm.
It was seemingly like we went from basically being pretty free to overnight restrictions. Um,
And it was state by state different. It's like you can go to Florida and do
yeah,
whatever you want to do, and then nobody's getting
it was
COVID, or
there was
I
no
mean,
there were
one
no
testing, but
no consistency. Like if you're gonna if the government's gonna be like, hey, we need to like be a little careful here for the next 6 months while we develop a vaccine,
right.
or do we test one? Because the mRNA technology wasn't new. It was just that vaccine specifically was new, obviously, because they had to respond to it. But
Right.
we needed some consistency. Some states were completely no restrictions. Others were like locked down pretty tightly. Um, I think it turned off a lot of people. It made them feel like I have no control of what I do in my life. Like we have to take my kids to school. My kids aren't developing. I think we're seeing some of that lack of social development now because we're 5 years
Hmm.
past it. A lot of these kids were in middle school, high school, and now they're adults and they're having issues with mental health even more than they were before, or they're struggling
Hmm.
with fitting in, or they're struggling with fitting in at work, or doing basic things because they weren't really socialized like you and I were. Um,
Right.
I think the COVID response was not great because we've had other flus, we've had other diseases, and we never really had this much of a ridiculous like response or kind of too far. Like we have flu shots every season. Hell, when we were in
Hmm.
high school, we had swine flu,
Yep.
H1N1. I mean, I was out for a week.
Hmm.
Other people out for weeks because of swine flu. We
Yep.
didn't have restrictions then. We didn't have these crazy lockdowns or you can only get your news from your governor because everything else is locked down. We didn't have that then. I just think
Hmm.
I think there could have been a better way to help mitigate this instead of just saying you have to do this because I'm telling you right now, that kind of mentality turned a lot of people off from a vaccine or suggesting you have to get all these boosters. Like it, we I think we pushed a lot. I think people on the left pushed a lot of people away with this like hammer and nail kind of approach to problem solving. So
Yeah, and I think that's where, I mean, that's why I'm just like, where are these no kings people? Where were they 4 years ago during COVID?
yeah,
And then now all of a sudden, you like, where were you? Like, this is why we don't trust, not you, Scott, but just people that are just protesting. That's like, where were you guys 4 years ago when we were not allowed to leave our house? You had people in Minnesota with Tim Walz, like with the, I don't know if it was a National Guard or some police force came down the street saying people had, if you call people out for being out of the house, we'll give you money for
yeah.
ratting them out. It's like, where were you guys then? Like, when it was an authoritarian society on the citizens of the US. And I can see why now it's not like it's still, I guess you can say, forms of fascism and
Mm.
authoritarianism in different ways.
Here's yeah, I agree.
But I
Yeah,
guess keeping it to COVID, I mean, obviously we discussed this last week too.
yeah.
Keeping it to COVID, yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think it was handled very bad. And I think that's what caused a lot of the mistrust in the government too.
What we should have done was talk to people. For example, let's say a lot of conservatives out there was like, I don't want to get my boosters. I'm not doing that. I don't trust it. But we should have said was like, hey, you need your COVID vaccine because there are people like you. There are people who, unlike you, are not, are immunocompromised or who are older, who have diseases that if they get exposed, they could die like pretty quickly, like immediately.
Mhm.
Exposure can like for example, you have cancer, you get chemo radiation, your immune system's shot from all that. So
Right.
getting COVID, is
Hmm.
important so that you don't carry and harm someone else. Because you might not die from it, I won't die from it, but my
Right.
wife could, my dad could. A booster saying we won't mandate a booster, but we should say that you should get. We recommend it because all that does is help you restore your immunity, especially when there's new variants out there. Because viruses change, they mutate, right? They mutate from for environmental factors. They mutate over time really quickly. I think like yeah, this authoritarian approach, this you will do this because we say so, because it's an
Right.
emergency, pissed a lot of people off. I think some of the risks were overblown. There were rare
Mhm.
instances where like myocarditis would happen from like a, you know, there were rare risks of vaccine issues when like 95% of them were like it helped, it worked, it made people safer. I wish there was a better approach and a better conversation versus this fear campaign that pissed a lot of people off and made them put them at risk. You know,
Yeah. Um, I think it also had to do with the fact that people said the only way you can prevent this is getting the vaccine. There's nothing else you can do.
well, here's what they should have said, and I just want to push back a little bit. The vaccines help. We've had vaccines for hundreds of years now. They're documented. They work. mRNA is not a new type of administering a vaccine. All it does
Mhm.
is teach your mRNA how to like code against the virus. Instead of just giving you a strain, it teaches you how to fight against it. We should educate people on how that works and not just say the only way to not get it is you're right because you could not get the vaccine and not get it because you didn't go out somewhere or you were being careful in public spaces or you were sanitizing. That's fair.
Right.
But we should definitely agree collectively that hey, vaccines are safe. We prove them. We mRNA technology is not brand new. We might have rolled this COVID vaccine out pretty quickly, sure, but the actual like mechanism of how that works is not new technology. We don't force people to do it, but educate them on the risks and tell them, hey, you should probably get it because if you don't, and if you get it, yeah, you're not going to die, but your immunocompromised mom or dad or your girlfriend or best friend or whatever, they could. I think there was a more nuanced approach.
Yeah, but then there's a thing of like how much did the vaccine stop the spread? I don't know if, I mean, because apparently all it really did was if you got the vaccine, it means that you may have had less of a viral load buildup, which would possibly allow you to spread it less, but not even fully. Because people who were sick with COVID in the same house as other people
Mhm.
didn't spread the virus because they were just like in their own rooms. So how much really did the vaccine help with that? And I don't even know if they knew, but they at the time they didn't know how much it really helped. They just said it, but they didn't really know how much it really helped.
Well, so I want to be clear here. Vaccines aren't meant to like. It's not like you'll never get it. What it does is
They said that.
they should have said that. They
Right.
should they should have said that. What they should
Right.
have said was like, hey, a vaccine limits your chance to get it. Um, it inoculates you against this. You could still get it, but you won't get all the symptoms from it. You won't die from it. You won't be hospitalized from it. 95% of the time. What they should have said was accurately say, hey, we're not saying you're cured from it forever. We're saying right now this strain, you will survive it if you get it. You might not though, because you have a better chance of your body defending against it. They should have been more accurate with that, and not to say it'll cure you, you'll never get it, you're safe forever. That was wrong.
And they should have targeted it more towards people who are at risk. It's hard to know who's really at risk because sometimes people don't know that they're at risk when they are at risk. But when you're giving it to kids and infants, when the death rate is nearly zero,
Yeah, they shouldn't
and
have.
there's actually more, I mean, there's more risk of myocarditis in the infants and kids than there is for severe COVID vaccinations or COVID infections.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, do we need to vaccinate all the babies and the kids too? Maybe not. If the messaging is more just like, hey, focusing on the at risk, you would, everybody would believe you.
Yeah,
And maybe people who don't need to get it maybe would get it because you're being more reasonable. But if you're making it so black and white where it's a one size fits all for everyone, we have kids wearing a mask when they're outside. It's like, what are we doing?
yeah, we don't
It
need
was
to.
so dumb. So
Yeah.
many things were just done. Some things were done right,
Mhm.
but so many things were just done so recklessly that it just you lost the trust because now it's hard to know what is reasonable and what's not because so much of what you're saying is just so unreasonable.
I think we had the wrong people making an argument for the vaccines. I mean, like right now, what we should have focused on, honestly, were like real doctors, real scientists, the CDC. They did prove that the mRNA vaccine prevented millions of deaths. Prevented. It doesn't mean you didn't get it or you weren't going to get sick, but having it prevented you from dying or you from spreading it.
Right.
That is
I'm
proven. That
sure.
that
I'm not gonna deny that.
now now
Because I don't
pivoting
know.
to non-mRNA, like regular vaccines, like for mumps or rubella, like those things, like polio or
Hmm.
measles, that which had a recent outbreak in Texas. I think I'm with you. Don't mask kids for COVID. That didn't work. They're not going to get it. They were not at risk. It was adults or It was adults carrying it, and then immunocompromised people. But for like other vaccines, if you want to inoculate against like MMR, mumps, was it like mumps, measles, and rubella?
Hmm.
Those are real things that, I mean, look,
Hmm.
you and I couldn't have gone to public school or college
Yeah.
without having a record of like we got these vaccines.
Right.
And so there are certain things that we know for a fact we shouldn't mandate them. But if you're going to share a public space, like go to public school or go to college or work at a company, I think we need to agree that there are certain things that we've gotten rid of through proven science that we should not go back on because we're afraid of a few claims that it could give you autism. Like the wrong people are speaking about vaccines right now, and they're saying very, very like hyper focused and like this will kill you. This is dangerous. No, 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 no. We need to say that we've gotten rid of measles entirely
Hmm.
because of our collective agreement and trust in the science behind it. I just don't want to go back because we had a really bad period of people in power in 2020 saying the wrong things about vaccines when they should never have been even near the conversation.
Yeah. No, yeah. I agree that a lot of vaccines do a lot of good. I just think the way things are marketed and the way things are presented are eerily similar to how it was during COVID, to where it's
Yeah,
losing people's trust. My kids are vaccinated. I mean, that's not gonna, I'm still gonna do it.
yeah.
I do wonder, like, why is the Hep B vaccine administered the first day of life? That's a little weird to me. She still got it the first day of life, but it makes me think that is a little weird. I have to look
Well,
into that one a little more to know why
I
for sure,
actually
because it doesn't really make
I
any
can answer
sense.
that question.
Okay.
It Hep B, it's they always say it's like a sexual disease and it's an STD, but there's other risks too. There's like blood transmission. What if a woman gets stuck with a needle by accident, or she gets a wound exposed? Those things can happen, and they can transfer to the fetus, the baby, whatever you want to call it. All I'm saying is it is primarily like everyone thinks of hepatitis as an STD, but there are other things that can happen at at
Yeah.
at birth, conception, whatever, in the womb. That's why they do that. Um,
Yeah, I guess that argument to me makes some sense.
and not everyone is sharing needles, but on the off chance that you get exposed to something, accidentally, maybe through no fault of your own, it is good to have that just in case.
Yeah.
Most of us reasonable people aren't participating in dangerous activities that'll expose us to Hep B, but there's always the accidental causes.
Yeah. And another thing too, I know
Yeah,
we have someone in the family where it's like they were born prematurely. I think it was like 6 or 8 weeks premature, maybe 6 weeks, maybe,
yeah,
at least. So, but then like after they're out of the womb for 1 month, they're just like on the regular routine of the 1 month vaccinations, where it's like, is that, wait a minute, this baby's born premature, more than a month premature, and now you're giving them the 1 month vaccinations at the 1 month afterwards. Are we sure this is okay? Like, are they developed? They're not even mature yet. Like,
yeah.
that's just to me, it's a little weird that there's no like, you know what? Let's wait an extra 2 weeks or an extra week or two. It's like, nope, 1 month from womb
Well,
to exit, and
what I
now this is
can
schedule
say is,
where it's like, oh,
I
that's
see what you
weird.
mean about like maybe we wait just a little bit until the child is a little more developed, and then we can do that.
Yeah,
I can see why some people would have some reservations about that. Um, but for the most part, like it when you give it when you inoculate the baby or the mom or whatever, it can still be transmitted from mother to child. Within the first 24 hours of birth, if you give the dose, you can prevent transmission to like 95%.
not just Hep B, but this is like in the 1 month
Yeah,
vaccine or 2 month vaccines. It's like I forget which ones they are. It's not Hep B.
yeah,
It's other ones that are on the schedule for the 1 month, 2 month, whatever. Like regardless if they're born premature or
yeah,
not, they're still on the 1 month because they're it's 1 month from when they left the womb. It's like, okay, are we sure about this? Like the babies are very differently developed at this point because one of them is premature 6 weeks, which is more than a month. But now they're mature enough to take it after a month. Like, is why even wait 1 month? Why not give all babies immediately at this point at the phase at this? So to me, it's just kind of like and then
yeah.
he had a fever because it was like, oh yeah, maybe he wasn't ready, and maybe
Yeah.
babies have fevers after vaccines, but
I see what you mean. I didn't
It
realize you
just
were just
doesn't
talking
make
about
sense to
other
me.
ones.
It's just weird.
So I'm looking it up right now because I want to know too. I'm
Yeah,
learning with you. Um,
yeah,
so they give they give those vaccines in the first and second months because their immune systems are strong enough to handle the vaccines, but not the potential like deadly diseases. Like for in the first six, I'm reading right now. In the first 6 months of life, diphtheria, tetanus, rotavirus, hepatitis B, streptococcus, all these hit really, really hard in that first 6 months of life. So we give them that fighting chance to say, hey,
right,
your baby could potentially survive a fever, but they will not survive, rotavirus or Hep B
right.
or whooping cough is a really scary one. You know what I mean?
No,
Um,
that makes sense.
so
Yeah,
we there are. I'm not a doctor yet, okay,
yeah. No,
but
no.
I
I mean, what?
imagine medical
But you're
professionals.
reading what the
Yeah,
doctors have said, so
they
it's
they they. I was going to say like we, but like no, they calculate some inherent risk to say your baby will survive a fever in the first 6 months as a possible side effect, maybe, right? But they will not, more likely than not, survive like tetanus or whooping cough.
Yeah.
Really, really
Yeah,
scary.
I guess okay. I
Yeah.
guess my argument specifically here is for if babies are premature six
If
weeks,
they're
is their immune
premature,
system,
honestly, probably up the doctor. They make that call. If they can, if it's,
yeah,
I see, because not all, I would imagine, not all premature babies are like at risk of like,
like would their immune system be the same as someone who was a non-premature 1 month? Like, or maybe what the real thing is,
yeah,
maybe the immune system is fine at like 2 weeks, but they just wait an extra 2 weeks as
fair.
precautionary. So maybe the premature babies, theirs would definitely be fine too at 1 month, even though they're premature. I don't know, but I feel like it seems just too cookie cutter
Okay.
and too one size fits all for everyone, no matter what. Because every baby's immune system the same after 1 month. Do we know that for sure, regardless of race, gender,
I think we can
whatever?
agree to disagree. I think I've looked it up here. I have another monitor here for work
Yeah.
actually, but I say when it comes to premature babies, the argument that I'm seeing is they need it. They need it more so than the non-preemies. That means they have
Hmm.
a less stronger immune system to fight against these big disease. The flu, whooping cough, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I would say we can agree to disagree. We say, can the doctor make that decision? They can. They can figure out if in this case by case, can this premature baby handle it? More often than not, the studies say they need it sooner. But there could be examples of a premature baby
Mhm.
that's like maybe, I don't know, that needs a little extra life support before they're fully able to breathe on their own. There's some of those like rare examples that could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and if I agree that it should be up to the doctor, and I think doctors should have more freedom to possibly go against the APA or whatever like the official ruling is if they feel that their patient requires something different. Like when you heard that doctors would get their license taken away
Yeah.
for administering some alternative COVID medications like ivermectin or whatever. Why is your license being taken away? That makes no sense.
For
They
what?
should be able to, if they're a doctor, they should be able to have the freedom to kind of, at least more, maybe more flexibility in their practice to kind of, hey, be like, hey, you know what? I'm a doctor.
Mhm.
I'm licensed. I feel like this is better for these patients, but maybe different for these patients. And I think that's where the mistrust comes in, where it's like, patients might feel like their doctor can't have the freedom to do what they feel is best. They have to follow the guidelines.
Oh, okay. So I'll say this. Just for the before I kind of, you just mentioned ivermectin, and I want to talk about
Yeah,
that
yeah,
a little bit.
sure.
But as far as like the premature thing, uh, premature babies, they don't have the backup systems like the immune system to be able to fight against it, or to maybe fight against it is not saying that babies do,
Yeah.
but being preemie means more often than not, yeah, you need protection sooner. There's no use waiting, because
Hmm.
they're even more compromised than your standard normal healthy baby would be. All the
Right.
studies say that they do need vaccine sooner, and a lot of times what happens is they administer a vaccine or the set of vaccines to a premature baby. The hospital can monitor them to see if there's any reactions. They typically do that. I mean, there is a safety measure put in place. But I do want to talk about ivermectin.
Sure.
I agree with you that maybe, look, I'm just saying this is like a future doctor. It'd be cool to have some latitude if the science backs it up and you're able to accurately and scientifically justify a medical recommendation based on the patient's history, what they have currently, their symptoms, what they respond to, pharmacology wise. Fair,
Hmm.
maybe a little more latitude for a professional doctor to take some scientific pursuit towards helping their patient. However, I will say for things that don't have any evidence helping, like ivermectin, there's no scientific evidence that says it helps with COVID-19. So there's certain things that just don't work, and if they don't work, I don't think it's wrong for the physician to ignore like the science. If he's ignoring a recommendation for the American Medical Society or Association, right? I just I don't. I think there should be. I wouldn't say punishment, but there should be like a question of, is this person qualified? Because we don't have any studies proving that ivermectin works, for example.
Yeah, well, I think what should happen, and this is like my
Yeah,
own personal opinion. I think what should happen is they should be allowed to administer things that maybe don't have evidence yet, as like, hey, sign this waiver saying this is an experimental treatment that has worked for some patients, but we don't know for sure if it works for this. But
yeah,
if you want to take it,
they do that
but so you can't, but then
for
what?
certain things.
But that's the thing, maybe not enough things. Where it's like,
Well,
hey,
right.
allow like if a doctor, if it's the early stages of COVID, when maybe there hasn't been enough research done yet to say that it doesn't help, because no research proves it. Well, has there been any research on it? Well, maybe we don't know yet, or maybe there hasn't been enough done. But like saying, hey, this might work, so sign this, but you
Okay.
can't really sue me if it doesn't work. But because you're signing a waiver as like a release form, as like an experimental treatment for something that we know is safe, because we know it's safe.
Okay. So here's what I'll say. Okay, I'm with you. There are scenarios where like in a scenario where somebody has a really advanced disease of some kind, and there is like the argument for like, well, why not push there's an experimental procedure. Can they sign it? We don't get sued. We don't get in trouble. I get that. But a lot of times in these experimental procedures, there's clinical data. There's proof of this has worked on a live human patient. There's real science that backs it up. But with ivermectin, for example, they showed some inhibition with COVID in like a culture, but not in like a human. Like they showed certain inhibitions in like a controlled experiment, like a petri dish, for example. But in
Mhm.
an actual human being, like no actual data, no clinical trials, no proof. at extremely high. You would need an extremely high dose for a human being to see those effects, and at that point, it would be considered like an overdose. Like you'd be poisoning the person. There's a difference I think between like an experimental procedure and then this thing just doesn't work at the scale that it needs to for a human being.
Yeah, I mean, my take would be that a good doctor would know
Yeah,
that and not write the prescription for it.
yeah,
But maybe in the earlier stages, I'm just giving an example because
yeah,
there's a lot of medications that's happening now where it's like some medications actually work for more diseases than they're made for that we don't just don't know about. We're still learning about with AI, they're doing experiments to say, hey, do these medications or these treatments work for different things? Like, for example, what was it? Like, oh my gosh, what is the erectile dysfunction medication that was not that was like a blood thinner, but it works for this too.
okay,
Forget which one it is, Viagra or something. It was meant for like blood thinning, but then it also works for this. So we maybe earlier on in these pandemics or whatever, where it's like, hey, you know what? We've shown some people have seen positive results where we know that that treatment is
yeah.
safe. We can do like an emergency approval for these things just to kind of like have different options for people.
Here's what I'll say. I'm with you on. I'm with you on. I like the experimental procedure piece. I really like that. I think it's important that there are certain things that, like for really really rare instances, like a super advanced cancer, where there might be
Hmm.
a procedure that worked once in a different country, but a lot of times, like for like the argument I heard, we'll just keep it to COVID. The argument I heard was like
Sure.
mRNA is experimental. Ivermectin has worked. I heard it on Joe Rogan. They said that it's worked. It helped, but mRNA wasn't experimental. Like it completed pre-market testing. They reviewed it. They went through multiple clinical trials, multiple phases. It what it wasn't experimental. It was proof. Now with
What's the
ivermectin,
thing with okay, so what's the I'm gonna stop you for a second.
yeah,
What was the thing? Because Dr. Robert Malone, he had like the patents on the mRNA vaccination, but then he was skeptical about it. I think that was the big one that kind of deterred people away.
Dr.
Because
Malone.
he has like more apparently he had like and I have to it's
Okay.
been years since I've looked into this, but I thought he was like a big guy and he had a lot of mRNA patents.
Fact check. Okay. Let me see what this is here. mRNA. Okay. Robert Malone is not okay. What the New York Times says, Robert Malone says he helped invent mRNA vaccines. What the Dr. Malone
He,
routinely sells himself. Okay. Um, he has patents here. Early studies. Hmm,
Maybe it was like a certain part of mRNA something something, but not the vaccination itself.
Hold on, I'm looking right now. I'm just trying to find it right now.
Yeah.
While I look, I will say though, there were three phases. Okay, trials. They had published data, independent review by the FDA, EMA, and the World Health Organization. They gave billions of doses. Um,
Hmm.
it wasn't like at that point it wasn't experimental, but I'm trying to find this Robert Malone guy.
Yeah.
He contributed. Okay, got it. He contributed earlier research, but not the sole inventor of mRNA vaccines. He did work on delivery experiments in the 80s and 90s. He helped show that they could be introduced into cells to make proteins, which is kind of what it does now, which is proof of concept. He claims that Malone's prone to misleading. He repeatedly implied that mRNA are experimental gene therapy. That's not how that works. That's not what that is. It's one thing to say that it helps your body like teach how to fight the virus, to say that it's, and then it's another thing to say that it's like gene therapy, that it's rewriting your genes. I mean, I just don't think that's fair. Um, mRNA technology was refined and validated by other teams at the University of Pennsylvania. The work that actually enabled safe human use and earned them the 2023 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. He did, okay, yeah, he helped. So he did help spearhead like early mRNA technology.
Hmm.
But since then, others have refined it, proven it. They've gone through. I mean, this was back in the 80s and 90s. So we've had at least
Yeah.
30 to 40 years of rigorous scientific study, tests, trials, experiments. I'm sure we've learned new things about mRNA in the past 30 or 40 years. Um, I think he contributed, but I think the science is probably caught up by then. I think it's fair to
Okay.
say.
Yeah. I haven't looked
Yeah,
into that a lot. I haven't
Huh.
Obviously, I haven't had any arguments against it besides maybe just some speculation because I haven't looked into it. But
No, no, no,
um,
no. I'm with you. I just
yeah, yeah.
think the piece about, not, you didn't bring this up really. I mean, you mentioned it, but like everyone else talked about this years ago. The whole ivermectin thing. They were worried about
Mhm.
mRNA being experimental. It seemed experimental because before COVID-19, no one talked about it except for people in scientific circles or doctors. But then 2020 happened. We had COVID, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, it's mRNA talk and it's vaccines, and everyone was new to it. But it's been around for 40 years, and they've had almost 50 years of testing it and figuring it out and working out the kinks. It's not perfect. No vaccine is meant to keep you 100% safe from it. It's meant to help you survive it. You know,
Right.
you can get a flu shot and still get the flu. You just won't maybe have all the symptoms or completely, be wrecked for a couple of weeks because you got sick. I mean, it's, uh,
Yeah.
but oh crap, it's almost 1 o'clock. I do have a call with
Yeah.
my boss soon.
Okay. That's okay. I think we kind of like
Yeah,
touched on this pretty well. I
yeah,
mean, I think we know where both of us stand on this topic. I think a lot of it is like, neither of us are doctors. Neither of us know for sure. I
mhm,
mean, thankfully, this COVID thing has kind of come and gone and
yeah.
doesn't really matter what we think.
I
Um,
agree. I think the important takeaway is to say, hey, you're right. We survived it. It's gone. We agree on it not being a good government response. The media kind of
yep.
inflated some of the fears. The wrong people were talking about it. In my opinion, some of the wrong people were supporting the vaccine, and some of the wrong people were speaking against it. I just
Hmm.
think if something like this happens again, and I hope it doesn't, we need to tell the public, hey, we have this technology that we've been refining for 40, almost 50 years. We want to share it with you. We want you to be safe. Here are the risks associated with it. Here's what will happen when you do. If you do take it, here's what will happen if you don't. Make your own decision. If we do
Hmm.
that, then the ivermectin claims or the more holistic approaches, people will be like, well, that's ridiculous. We have science here. If we have transparency about what we're working on and what we've worked on for the past 40 years, I think we build public trust again. We don't have to be
I agree.
experts, but we have to share and have the same knowledge so that we can make decisions together, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, cool.
But
All right, well, Scott, good talking to you
yeah,
again.
good deed.
And then we'll chat about if next time and whatever the topic will be.
Sounds good. I'll reach out maybe next week. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you later.
Yeah, no problem. All right, we'll see you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So let's talk about this a little bit here before I jump off this call and hop on with my boss, my actual job. Um, I think, I want to get this back. Here we go. Here we go. I think that it was a good conversation. I think he kind of avoided some of the topic when I talked about mRNA safety, and he mentioned ivermectin and experimental therapies. Let's be very clear here. This is a debrief. There's nothing against Brian. He's a great guy, and we had a great conversation. Um, experimental therapies or experimental surgeries are not the same thing as pushing ivermectin. When in the study for ivermectin, they found inhibitions for SARS-CoV, right? In like in a controlled like petri dish experiment, like small cultures. When you cannot translate that to humans, but you'd have to up the dose by like a lot, and at that point it would be considered poison. You'd be poisoning the human subjects because you're trying to use ivermectin to get rid of COVID. It's not a good enough claim. The fact of the matter is, mRNA vaccines are not a new technology. They've been around for almost 40 years, 50 years maybe, the 80s and 90s. It's not a new technology. It's proven. You know, it just was marketed and shared with the public incorrectly and with not great care. And that's the problem that I have with the left's response to it, but also on the right. You can't just throw ivermectin into the race because it's never been proven clinically. It doesn't work. mRNA vaccines have been proven clinically for almost 40 years. Okay, the technology works. It's been refined. It's been processed. It's been scrutinized by experts, real experts. And vaccines in general do work. Not just mRNA, but vaccines in general do. Okay? I'm Scott. This is Cipher Division. Thank you so much for watching. It was a great conversation today, great debate. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.